We were led to believe that our freedom could be at stake. So I decided, well, if that's the case, then I need to be doing something about it, and I wanted to go in the Marine Corps.
The place, Fairmont, West Virginia. The year, 1943. The 17-year-old son of a dairy farmer, Herschel Woody Williams, was told he was too short for the Corps, but when the rules changed shortly thereafter, Woody enlisted. And at 18, he left the farm in West Virginia for San Diego.
In the fall of '43, after I finished boot camp, we went through a phase of infantry type training. And then in the fall, they shipped us overseas, and we went to Guadalcanal in July and August of '44. We went to Guam and took it back that the Japanese had taken from us. We stayed on Guam then and continued to train. So then in early February, they loaded us aboard ship, and it wasn't until we got aboard ship that we knew where we were going.
Where they were going was Iwo Jima. It was February 21st, 1945. Fighting had started on the 20th. Woody and the others on board were told they probably wouldn't even get off the ship.
Because we were the reserve division to two others, they didn't think they would ever need that many people. And that we'd be gone about 5 days, and then we'd probably turn right around and go back to Guam.
They didn't turn back. They went ashore.
Total chaos. There was just equipment everywhere that was blowed up, and part of it sunk, and stuff on the beaches that the Japanese had blown up with the mortars, the artillery and that stuff. There was just equipment everywhere. And there were a lot of Marines because they had no way of getting them off the island once they were killed. When we hit the sand trying to get up toward the first airfield, it was just like walking on BBs or marbles or loose corn. Very difficult to get any foothold. And we met in a big shell crater. Tried to get down below ground level, and the shell crater was deep enough that we could do that. And that's where Captain Beck was looking for ideas and very frustrated and for the number of men that he had lost. That's where he asked the question of me, did I think I could knock out some of those pillboxes? And as I've said many times, I have no idea what my response was. Some of the other guys in the hole with me later said that my response was, I'll try. I don't know whether I said that or not. I probably did. This guy sounds like me. I might say that.
Woody Williams did more than try. As his citation for the Medal of Honor reads, quote, he fought desperately for 4 hours under terrific enemy small arms fire and repeatedly returned to his own lines to prepare demolition charges and obtain serviced flamethrowers, struggling back, frequently to the rear of hostile emplacements to wipe out one position after another, end quote.
There's some parts that are in my citation that I do not remember at all. And I'm sure it was a fear bug that took that away. I'm convinced of that. There's some that are so vivid that they just never go away. They're just always there. And all I have to do is stop for a second, and there they are. I have to emphasize, I didn't do this alone because there were other Marines helping me. But I did use 6 flamethrowers over a period of 4 hours. I have been asked, and if you were to ask me, how did I do that? I have not the slightest idea.
In the end, more than 6,800 Marines lost their lives on Iwo Jima. When the flag was raised over Mount Suribachi, it was day 4 of the exhausting and deadly 36-day battle. February 23, 1945. Another 7 months would pass before Woody Williams would receive his Medal of Honor from President Truman on the White House lawn.
I am so frightened. No one can understand. Maybe they can't, if they've ever been in a near auto accident or a near something that caused their body to shake. That's the way I was that day. When I got up to walk up there, my body began doing that, just like this. And he put the metal around my neck, and then now whether he did this to everybody or not, I do not know. But he put his left hand on my right shoulder, and I have always believed that it was to try to keep my body from jumping up and down, because that's exactly what it was doing.
More than 60 years after the action, the memories of his fallen brothers are far from faded.
The medal that I so proudly possess really belongs to them. They gave more than I did. They gave all they had. So when I wear it, I don't wear it for what I did. I was just doing a job for which I had been trained. But I wear it in their honor, not mine. And I just figure I'm the caretaker of it. I'm going to take care of it. But it's theirs.
I was born in Columbus, Ohio during the Depression. In fact, the day the stock market crashed in 1929. And over the years, my mother had had 15 children, and she was about to have another child. And so me and my brother, because women make a lot of noise when they have babies, we got out of the house. And when we came back, my sisters were out on the porch waving their arms. And when I got close, one of them said, "Ron, Mama had twins." And I turned to my brother and said, "There goes my place at the table. I'm a joining the Army."
Ron Rosser had already served for 5 years when his brother Richard was killed in action in Korea. That death would change Ron's life.
My primary reasons for going to Korea, just to finish his tour. And I insisted on a combat assignment. When I arrived at my company, which was Heavy Motor Company, my company commander was going to assign me to the 3rd platoon as a first gunner on a mortar. And I told him, I said, "Captain, I'm going up on line." He said, "Rosser, I'm running this company. You're going where I tell you." I said, "No, sir, Captain, I'm going on line." And he said, "Oh, no, you're not." And I said, "I can't think of a way you can stop me, Captain." I think I was probably well suited for the Korean War. Between enlistments, I had worked in the coal mines, and I was pretty rugged, you know. So when I got to Korea, I could run the mountains like a mountain goat, you know, and they were carrying all kind of equipment, and it didn't bother me. I got there in July of 1951 and immediately went on line. I served with almost every company there in the regiment out on the front line. Anybody that, anything of platoon strength or higher that went behind enemy lines, I had to go with them.
January 1952. With temperatures holding at 20 below and a foot of snow on the ground, the United States would learn just how suited then Corporal Ron Rosser of the 38th Infantry was for battle.
I realized I was in deep trouble, and but I thought about it just a second. I said, well, I went to a lot of trouble to get here. No use wasting the whole day. So I let out a war whoop and jumped in the trench with them.
Ron Rosser was on a mission: avenge his younger brother's death and save American lives. It was January 12, 1952, and U.S. soldiers were dropping from enemy fire all around him as he made his way up that ridge in Korea.
The Chinese were waiting on me in the trench, and for some reason they didn't shoot me right away, waiting for me to get close, I guess. And when I was about 10 yards from them, they raised up to shoot me, and I threw my first grenade, and it went right in the trench with them and busted them up. And as I went over the trench, I dropped the second-hand grenade on them and took care of them those behind me. I finally started running out of ammunition again, so I worked my way back to the first trench and firing as I went. By the time I got to the trench, I was out of ammunition, and I was checking my coat pocket to see if I had any magazines left, and I didn't. And a Chinese soldier ran right up on top of me, and I was in the trench, and he was standing on top of me, and he started to shoot me. And I didn't have no ammunition, but he didn't know that. So I swung my carbine up at his face, and for about a second we looked at each other, and then I screamed right in his face. And he threw his hands up in front of his face and let out a moan and took out running.
On this day, Ron Rosser battled the enemy for 90 minutes. He doesn't remember how many he took out. From the citation for his Medal of Honor, quote, "During this heroic action, Corporal Rosser single-handedly killed at least 13 of the enemy, and though himself wounded, made several trips across open terrain still under enemy fire to help remove other men injured more seriously than himself," end quote.
I never really worried about, getting hurt. And I never worried about the war very much either. Most of the time I was just too busy to worry about it. My job was to take care of these other people. And I was so busy doing that I didn't have time most of the time to think about myself. I always wanted to be a soldier, and the way I realized it, the more enemy I took out, the less Americans died. And one time people asked me why I did this stuff, and I just said that others might live.
When Ron Rosser received his Medal of Honor from President Truman, it was a family affair. In fact, a bus carried the Rosser family from Ohio to the White House to see this first of 17 children be honored by his country.
We walked out into the Rose Garden, and I think that's probably the most afraid I ever was in my life. I didn't know what was going to happen to me, but I knew then that my life was going to be different. I had no idea why, but I knew it was going to be different. And I knew that from that day on, I always had to have a sense of honor and live an honorable life. I didn't want to do anything to disgrace the medal. I feel that the men that were with me that day earned the medal as much as I did. I just happened to be the most colorful one, and I made it to the top. A lot of them tried, but didn't make it. I'm honor bound to remember those people.
I grew up in an environment in which the assumption was that when you got to be old enough, you would go do your bit. You'd serve for a while and then get out and go do whatever you're going to do.
Jack Jacobs grew up in Brooklyn with a clear view of his future: college, Army service, law school. But the need to feed his wife and 2 small children motivated him to change his military course of action.
I got to Vietnam after being in the 82nd Airborne Division, which was my first tour. My first assignment was in Charlie Company, 2nd Battalion Airborne, 505th Infantry. And I went airborne at least partially for the same reason I went through senior ROTC. They paid you extra. They paid me an extra $100 a month. And so the airborne pay was great. And, it's not hard work. You're with really good people who are really serious about what they're doing, and they're great soldiers. And they're going to pay you, they're going to give you a 50% increase in salary to prove that gravity works.
By March of 1968, Jack Jacobs was an advisor with the 2nd Battalion, 16th Infantry of the Vietnamese 9th Infantry Division. Combat was non-stop, and the enemy was growing in numbers. On the 9th of March, the plan was to go on the attack to take on the Viet Cong over a beach on the Mekong River.
Now, when you go on an operation like this and you think you know where the enemy is, but you're not sure, rule number 1 is that you don't want to engage the bad guys in a meeting engagement with your entire force because you can't maneuver against them. They had had a spy in the province chief's headquarters and it had 3 days to emplace 300 VC in an enormous L-shaped ambush. And in the space of about 10 seconds, we lost, 75 guys killed and wounded in 10 seconds.
One of the most severely wounded was Jack Jacobs. From the citation for his Medal of Honor, quote, "Despite profuse bleeding from head wounds which impaired his vision, Captain Jacobs contacted and drove off Viet Cong squads who were searching for Allied wounded and weapons, single-handedly killing 3 and wounding several others. Extraordinary heroism saved the lives of 1 U.S. advisor and 13 Allied soldiers," end quote.
People ask me, why'd you keep going back? I mean, you bring a guy to safety, you don't have to go back out. But I thought, and whether it's true or not doesn't matter, I thought that I was the only guy who could do it, that everybody else was killed or wounded. It's not okay to just do your job. It's got to be the best job you possibly can do. And so if somebody says, oh, you did something really extraordinary, it isn't extraordinary. It's what's expected in combat. You're not allowed to lay back there and, you know, wait for somebody else to do it. You got to do it.
Jack Jacobs may not have thought his actions were extraordinary. Others would disagree. About 1 year later, he got a call. And then he got a second call.
Another different colonel calls up and says, this is Colonel somebody else from either DA or DOD awards branch. He said, congratulations, you're going to receive the Medal of Honor. And some major is going to call you up in a few days and organize the logistics to get you and your family to Washington for the ceremony. Out here. It's the first I mean, it didn't make any sense to me. I just thought I was doing, and by the way, you'll hear this from other, not just Medal of Honor recipients, but anybody who's received any accolade in combat. So there were lots of people who performed valiantly that day. There's a Medal of Honor recipient named Brian Thacker, who says quite poignantly, he said, he said, there are lots of people who deserve the award. I am the lucky one. I'm allowed to talk about it. I'm alive to talk about it. He said, but there are 3 grieving mothers still whose sons were every bit as brave. And you'll get that kind of stuff from anybody who's been in combat. Not me, it was him. Therefore, that Medal of Honor recipients do not represent themselves. They represent all those who are not here to represent themselves, and all fighting men and women who are out there right now serving and sacrificing for us. All warriors are in awe of all other warriors, not of what they've done themselves.
He really kept the man away from us in many ways. He was always our boy. When he was little, an imp is the only thing I couldn't explain. He had hazel eyes that would take on whatever color he was wearing, and they twinkled. I mean, literally, they twinkled. And big smile, really big smile. When he was little, he would tease his dad that he was going to be a state trooper, just to get to him. But as he got closer to graduating, it was like, you know, Jay, we have 4 kids. We can help you with college. We can't pay for this. And military, they do a lot with military, the GI Bill. And I was talking with them. I didn't know Dan was talking with him. And apparently it was something that was sitting well with him.
Jason Dunham found a perfect fit with the Marines.
We were very, very supportive of it. It was a good fit for him because it was a challenge, and Jay liked a challenge. He wanted to be the best. He wanted to do the hardest and succeed at it. And if he didn't succeed, he was willing to try again. It wasn't that he had to lord it over anybody, but it was that I need to conquer it for myself.
Jason's ability to lead was quickly noticed by his commanding officers. When he joined Kilo Company, 3rd Battalion, 7th Regiment of the 1st Marine Division in October 2003, he became squad leader and led as he expected others to lead.
He held a level of expectations, but he held that same level of expectations to himself, too. He had the respect for the rank and the order. That was definitely there. But if somebody was of a junior rank, it didn't mean you couldn't be friendly or extend a hand if they needed it.
April 14th, 2004, Jason Dunham and his squad were on patrol in the Al Anbar province when their CO's convoy was ambushed. They moved in the direction of the action where they encountered several Iraqi vehicles.
And they saw a line of SUVs trying to get away, and they did a road stop. And Jason went up on the driver's side, and the driver jumped out and grabbed my son and Jay Needham, and they ended up on the ground. Kelly and Billy had come up to try to help Jason. Jason yelled, "No, no, watch his hand," because he had a grenade in it. He already had the pin taken out. And when he let it go, Jason took his helmet off, put it over the grenade, and pulled it under him so that his body armor was over it, and it exploded. Billy and Kelly were injured with shrapnel. Jason didn't get up. He received an injury of shrapnel to his head, just a small piece, about the size of a pencil lead, and it traveled the length of his brain.
Deb Dunham and her husband Dan had a bad feeling before Jason left for Iraq, but Jason promised them he would come home.
With this medal, we pay tribute to the courage and leadership of a man who represents the best of young Americans.
His family accepted Jason's Medal of Honor on January 11, 2007. His citation read, quote, "In an ultimate and selfless act of bravery in which he was mortally wounded, he saved the lives of at least 2 fellow Marines," end quote.
I don't like that I don't have him, and I do feel cheated, and I should be better, but I have questions about why it happened. But I don't it was done for the right reasons. There are children that have been born because of Jason, because their daddies came home.
I christen you Jason Dunham.
On August 1st, 2009, the USS Jason Dunham was christened. For Deb Dunham, the moment was bittersweet.
It's a double-edged sword. The Marines and the Navy will remember our son. Having his name on a ship, people are going to know that there was a man who did something that was worth recognizing. Then maybe they'll check and find out what other heroes have done.
Sergeant Billy Hampton was with Jason when the grenade exploded. Jason's action saved his life.
It means a great deal to all of us that our brother was recognized for his selfless act, and we couldn't be happier. It's closure. It doesn't seem like enough. It'll never be enough, but it's closure for us, and it's our way of saying goodbye and thank you.
Jason, we love you. Rest in peace. Sleep well, my son.